Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Don't Stop Believing, a paranormal women's fiction novel by Langlais, narrated by Nicole Poole. Prologue. The beast was dead. Not really a surprise, given the aquatic monster had outlived its purpose. The creature, named Maddie by the humans, had fought long and hard against their dominion. It took years after its capture before it did their bidding and helped them retrieve the muddy remains of the source. Hard to believe the sludge that Maddie guarded inside her underwater cave was part of the key to unlocking the magic they'd lost. They dredged everything they could from the lake, down to the smallest speck, packaged hundreds of bottles bearing the inert source. Not long now. The bottles had been distributed to the new residents expanding the town of Camden and its surrounding areas. A grubby hamlet that didn't come close to resembling the grand cities of old that they'd once ruled. They'd gone from royalty to paupers, but their time was about to come again. Leviathan regarded the body at his feet, dead because it failed him. Jude, a human suit he'd worn from time to time, had outlived its use. A good thing he always had a few spare vessels to jump into. He kicked the body into the water, lapping at the interior pier. He didn't worry about it being found, given the rapacious fish he'd seeded in the water, always hungry for fresh meat. As Leviathan strode from the loading dock, now silent with the machines turned off, he noticed with satisfaction that they'd finished ahead of schedule. Now he only had to play his repulsive part, and then he'd be the one to lead them into the new world, the one to wield the most magic. As he entered the reception area, his gaze tracked directly to those passing through. His stride quickened, though not as long as he liked. The vessel he'd taken over was not to his usual standards. However, it suited his purpose for the moment, especially once he made some subtle modifications. Leviathan smirked at the other princes, only 11 left of the original 17 who fled death in their world. With little time to scout, and the planets ill-aligned, they'd had to settle for Earth, a place with suitable hosts for their consciousness, if lacking in magic.
"Are you working together to wrest control from me?"
He was only half mocking. He'd not made it to this point by underestimating his competition.
"If you want to drive, then go ahead. The end result will be the same, magic for all,"
Sunilian pointed out. Leviathan snorted.
"You would be blasé, given my sources say you've been working on the witch's daughter."
The prince shrugged.
"You failed. Time for someone else to have a turn." "I had her,"
he argued. As Jude, he had fucked the daughter, then thought he could make the act with the mother more palatable by inviting her to join them.
"And then he lost her,"
Astaroth said with a laugh.
"What is the delay? Does the body you chose to use have issues?" "My cock works just fine. It's her, the witch."
He grimaced.
"If it's so repugnant, then move aside for someone else,"
Astaroth suggested.
"Like you? Is there anything you won't fornicate with?"
Leviathan growled, growing tired of the deal he'd made with the other remaining royals. This uneasy alliance was only born out of necessity. Centuries of seeking the source and seeing themselves dwindle in number, and then finally the clue that changed everything. A lake hiding a lost treasure guarded by a formidable witch. But they had time to get past her defenses and tame the beast guarding it. The alignment they'd been waiting for was moments away. Soon, they would take back their power. And then Leviathan would kill everyone so he didn't have to share it. 1. Not long after Christmas, I had the lake monster dream, a thing I used to dread. Now it saddened me. Maddie, the creature people claimed lived in Camden's Lake, was gone. The pebbled beach marching into the water held no ominous shade or shape. No unusual humps or ripples marred the surface of the lake. No more nuclear glowing either. The monster had passed away, and I missed it. I woke sniffling, sad. What is wrong with me? Why would anyone miss the terror that Maddie used to bring? I mean, the darn thing used to eat me practically each time I closed my eyes. Except in my last dream of Maddie, when the beast looked sick and dying. Had my subconscious killed my imaginary beast? Perhaps it was a symbolic thing that had to do with my burgeoning sense of self-empowerment. I transformed from a housewife and a doormat, gotten out of a toxic relationship with a man who despised me. And I mean despise. Martin had set my house on fire, with me in it. That kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth, which often flipped into the sour flavor of guilt, because I'd yet to give a damn he'd died. Martin had turned into a mean old man, and I was glad he was gone. Life was better than I could remember. I greeted the day now instead of dreading it. With that thought, I sprang out of bed, delighted to find the sheets dry. No menopausal sweats in the middle of the night where I was stripping the bed and taking a cold shower. Twice in the last week it happened. Nothing during the day yet. I assumed it was coming and wondered if they had a Jaws-like theme song for the menopause symptoms that like to pounce at inconvenient times. Although I was digging the silver in my hair, I thought of it as natural highlights. Joints popped as I stretched, and I jiggled a bit more than a person should as I made my bed. A new thing I'd started doing. I'd spent most of my adult life, say from when I moved out of my grandma's house until recently, leaving it a mess. Then I discovered the joys of climbing into a neatly made bed. Every morning I now yanked up the sheets and comforter, fluffed my pillow on top, tucked my jammies under it, then walked in my underwear into the bathroom. Naked and super self-conscious despite being alone. However, a book I'd been reading said feeling more confident meant accepting myself as I was. The whole love yourself thing, which took effort. What helped give me a boost was knowing I had a busy day ahead at my store. People on their holiday breaks between Christmas and New Year would be out spending looking for Boxing Day, now week-long deals. I'd printed out some new signs to put in my store overnight. In the bathroom, I stepped on the scale and blinked at the digital display of a number I'd not seen since my first pregnancy. My lower lip wobbled. With happiness. It felt good to reach a goal I'd set for myself. Yay for me! I showered and blow-dried my silver-streaked hair as I readied for work. Some people might hate their jobs, but I loved mine. There was something exciting about going out in the world and doing something, supporting myself, providing to society. Hell, I had to pay taxes, which some might complain about, but to me was a sign of how far I'd come. I didn't depend on anyone. I was in charge of me. Booyah! Spirits high, I skipped down the stairs, now wider than before. The house had changed to suit me. Although why I'd need a wide set of stairs when it was just me using them was baffling. Wait, was my house trying to tell me something? Things with my kind of boyfriend, Daryl, were heating up. He'd kissed me again when he came by last night with his dog, Herbie, and a fistful of flowers offered with a grin. I might have smiled just as stupidly back before I got slobbered on by the biggest puppy you ever saw. I laughed like a fiend as Daryl swore, "For fuck's sake, you mangy mutt, get off her!" The commotion brought Winnie, my daughter, who declared the dog her new best friend, and then kidnapped him for a walk. I wondered if Daryl had planned for that to happen since it would give us alone time. After all, his excuse to visit me was pretty flimsy. He claimed it was to show me some stuff he'd found to put up for sale in my shop. He could have just dropped the goods off when I was at work, but instead he came knocking on my door. He didn't stay long and apologized profusely while collecting his dog from Winnie, who'd had the misfortune of bumping into our grumpy neighbor, Jace. Daryl promised he'd see me soon. I couldn't wait. I'd been smiling so much lately my cheeks hurt. This was happiness. My life was a box of chocolates, with each flavor a day that became my new favorite one. My enjoyment was marred only by a foreboding that something wicked was coming to run me over. Dun, dun, dun! Could anyone else hear the ominous music playing? Why couldn't I enjoy the moment, seize the day? Why did I have to constantly think negatively? Did I want the drama? As I hit the main floor of my cottage, that was sliding into a mid-sized house, it was to see my son at the sink, rinsing his dishes. Not something he'd ever done when he lived at home. But it appeared moving out on his own gave him a better appreciation of the kind of help I'd hoped for when we all lived together. At times, I felt bad at how often I got mad at my kids. Getting caught up in stupid shit that had no importance, like wanting them to clean their rooms, stack the dirty stuff inside the dishwasher, put their laundry away. And my biggest peeve, shoes and socks all over the front hall. Now some would say that yelling paid off because look at my kids now. They might be living with me at the moment, but they were model roommates. However, new me, wiser me, wished I'd shown more patience. I loved my kids, but didn't always express it in the best ways. My personal misery led to me sharing it. In hindsight, I could see the despair in my actions. For a while, I'd forgotten how to look for the joy. But I was learning. Every day I got a little better at it. The biggest thing I'd learned? Start your day with a bright disposition. "Morning, fruit of my loins," I chirped as I sailed into the kitchen. My son cast me a glance behind a thick hank of hair. He'd let it grow out, along with a beard. My baby boy sported a scruffy jaw.
"You're in a good mood."
"It's a beautiful morning." Spoken by someone who'd yet to set foot outside. Jeff glanced at the window.
"It's overcast, and the forecast is saying to expect a few inches of snow."
"Then it's a good day for you to game with your friends," I announced. When he was a teen, I worried about him playing them too much and yet set no limit on television watching. I saw no harm in the fake drama on screen. Back then, video games were the rock and roll of that generation, ruining kids. And then I discovered the joy of apps on my phone. Why had I ever limited him? I now understood the calming nature of an electronic game. I'd been candy crushing enough I was level 705.
"Gaming requires a computer, or at the very least a television not built in the 1980s and a video game console, Mom," he said with amusement. I glanced around at my house and scented a thought. "You heard that. I don't suppose you can conjure those up?" The house didn't exactly reply. It never spoke, per se, but it did provide. Be jealous. I had a magical home that just wanted to please, and it dusted. "I might just be able to wrangle something for you," I said aloud. If the house couldn't do it, then maybe I could buy something in town. His brows rose. "Don't tell me you've got an Atari kicking around."
"You better hope not, because I will challenge you to a game of Pong and kick your butt." I did a little victory move that had him snorting.
"You are so weird."
It melted my heart to hear him say that, because when he was young, he used to say that when I'd do silly things to make him smile. "Not as weird as you," I chanted in reply with a wink.
"You off to the shop today?"
I nodded. He'd tried to help out the first day, but selling antiques just didn't have the same appeal to him as it did for me. He'd nodded off to sleep and had almost fallen off the stool behind the counter.
"What time you finishing? I'll make dinner."
I wasn't about to say no. 5-ish, I said. With it being winter and dark early, the store traffic dried up quick late afternoon. Which reminded me. I'll have to take a rain check. I told Trish I'd meet her at the diner.
Then it's time to test your local pizza delivery.
He rubbed his hands together. I laughed. That is way too much excitement for cheese on a flatbread.
I've seen you with steak. Don't talk.
Don't talk smack about a nice bacon-wrapped 6-ounce tenderloin. I just about drooled.
Give me a fatty ribeye and a baked potato.
Ribeye. I wasn't picky about my meat. Bring the meat. I'd eat all the meat. I might have said that out loud because my son cleared his throat.
Are you hungry or something?
Nope. Coffee is all I need. I prepped my travel mug and saluted him as I headed for the door. My stockinged feet slid over the circle and symbols etched into the varnished planks. Not just any circle. A magical one that my blood could activate. I'd killed a demon with it. I think. With no evidence of the death, I sometimes wondered if I'd dreamed it. The house shivered. It didn't like it when I doubted. I could feel its frustration. Then I was discomfited because you're not supposed to feel your house. Just like houses aren't supposed to widen stairs, add basements, or suddenly transform a shed into a garage. Yet my house did all that and more. The town was right when it claimed my family were witches. Although I wasn't too sure if I counted, given most of the magic I'd done came about by accident. I had no idea how I did stuff. There was no one to teach me, except for an arrogant prick trying to get in my pants and an old book left to me by my grandma. I'd not had much time to read, what with my new social life, job, and hobbies. Why care about magic when I had everything I needed? Except, apparently, a doorbell. I opened the door, juggling one arm into my coat, hovering the coffee while the other arm sought out the sleeve. My left foot was halfway in my boot because something was stuffed in the toe. I didn't even notice the box. I fell over it, smacking my chin, clacking my teeth, watering my eyes. But the biggest tragedy? My morning ambrosia. Gone. I almost cried at the loss. What the ever-loving fuck? Why put a package so close to the door? My new potty mouth exclaimed before I could stop it.
Mom, language!
Poor Jeff sounded so shocked, and with good reason. Used to be I threatened his bad words with a bar of soap. Now I could curse up a storm if I wanted. It felt liberating, and ironically cleansing. It's justified. That box almost killed me. A slight exaggeration. The tree that fell on my car and the wolves hunting me had been slightly more perilous.
I didn't hear anyone knock. They must have left it before I came upstairs.
It still blew my mind that I now had a basement level with a walkout. Before Jeff's arrival, I lived in a 2-bedroom cozy cottage with my suite in the attic and Winnie in a small bedroom on the first floor. Then my other child arrived, and a basement appeared with another bedroom, a full bathroom, and a rec area with a plaid couch, old fat television in a wooden base that probably needed 4 men to move, and a sliding glass door to a stone patio with a picnic table. I didn't understand how that happened, but it was freaking cool. Made me wonder if I wished for a greenhouse or an arts and crafts room, what would happen. I carried the box inside, not bothering to shut the door. The house did it for me. As I set it on the kitchen island, my kitty, Grisou, vaulted onto the granite top. It used to be butcher block wood, but I really didn't like how the cat hair stuck to it. The house changed it. Just like the simple wooden cabinets, painted over a few times, now had a shaker style to them, and the sink was a deep farmhouse with a faucet pull-out. Ever since I'd bled on the house and started believing, it was as if it thrived and sought to remake itself. I swear if one day I woke up in a castle, I'd probably piddle on the floor, and not because I sneezed too hard. Jeff tried to shoo my cat from the counter.
Down.
Leave him alone, he's fine. To me, Grisou was a member of my family who didn't deserve to live solely on the floor.
It's not fine, Mom. It's gross. We eat here.
And? It's just hair, Jeff. The words that came out of my mouth were so opposite to what I'd said to my kids growing up. I'd not put plastic on the couches, but it came close. Grisou nosed the box as I read the label addressed to Mrs. Naomi Rousseau. It came from some kind of legal office in the United States.
What is it?
Jeff asked, drying his hands on a towel. I'm not sure. A frown pulled my features as I palmed a knife to slice at the tape. As I pulled apart the cardboard flaps, Grisou let out a hiss, then a low growl. Even Jeff recoiled.
What's that smell? Smells like something died.
Looking inside the box, I saw a few things. Paper, some clothing, trinkets. A letter on top that started out, Dear Mrs. Dunrobin, as the beneficiary of your late husband's estate. I didn't close the flaps quick enough. Jeff saw, but rather than address it, he left the kitchen and returned to his cave. It didn't surprise me. He didn't talk about his father. My very dead ex-husband. Martin's body had been found on the other side of the lake. No one knew how he managed to escape jail, then travel undetected from the States to Canada and the small town I now called home. The autopsy noted that he died of exposure caused by living in the woods as winter started. Utter bullshit. Martin didn't have a single outdoorsy bone in his body. Not to mention, dying of the cold didn't explain the terror forever frozen on his face. There was no sign of foul play. Officer Murphy couldn't pin it on me. I should have been ecstatic Martin was out of my life, that he could no longer follow through with his threats to kill me. But something about the situation unsettled me. With Jeff gone, I eyed the package. What use did I have for an ex-husband's things? I should toss it into the fire pit out back and set it on fire. Or should I hold on to it for Winnie or Jeff? While they weren't fond of their late father, they might eventually want something to remember him by. Given Jeff's reaction, maybe I'd offer it to Winnie first. She'd hated him the least, and this in spite of how Martin treated her. Only as I held the package did I pause and second-guess my decision. What was inside? What if it was full of porn magazines? A shiv? Maybe more of Martin's crazy manifesto that basically accounted to kill that bitch. That bitch being me, of course. A smell still lingered around it. Death and something else. I wanted to say evil, but I didn't think it had a specific aroma. Meow! My cat twined around my legs, a sinuous gray shape that had grown so much since I'd adopted his orphaned butt months ago. What do you think, Grisou? I asked, shaking the package. Maybe I should make sure there's nothing in here that might upset Winnie. Better if it upset me. I could handle it. Setting the box back on the counter, I started with a letter from the lawyer, a generic thing that basically amounted to the fact that Martin was dead and they didn't know who else to send his shit to. By the way, as his beneficiary in his will and testament, you'll have to settle his estate. In other words, find some money to pay their bill. At that, I snorted. Figured those vultures would want their piece. I put the letter aside and pulled out the suit. His trial clothes that his lawyer arranged so he wouldn't appear in a prison jumpsuit. In a manila envelope was his wallet with his identification and an invalid bank card. His reading glasses. Under that, evidence bags full of books. Notebooks both glue-spined and spiral-bound. On the covers, dates. January 3rd, 2003 to August 14th, 2005. Journals? Work ledgers? I was kind of curious. As I shifted the first bag, the smell erupted in all its rancid glory. A glance within showed the culprit. A dead rodent. Barf. I didn't know how it got inside the box, but I knew it had to go. I lifted my shirt over my nose and grabbed some tongs to lift the carcass out. Then, gagging and stomach heaving, ran for the back door. I didn't have shoes, so I did the responsible thing. I flung it, mouse and tongs. With any luck, the critter would be dissolved by spring, and I'd dispose of the tongs when I found them again. I left the door open to remove the smell and headed back for the box. Curiosity filled me. I'd never known my husband kept any kind of journal. Where had he hidden them? In the garage where I rarely went? How did the lawyer get their hands on it? The evidence bags indicated the cops had confiscated the journals. Odd how I'd never heard of them when we went to court for his attempted murder of me. Then again, did they need more evidence? They had all they needed for a slam-dunk case. Peering back inside the box, I snared the plastic sleeve that was marked with this year with no end date. He must have begun it in prison. I pulled out the journal with its hard cover and flipped it open to see penned handwriting. Legible. An account of his life in prison.
Can't believe they arrested me. Can't they see what she is? She's dangerous. One of them. She took over my wife's body. She has to die.
2. It chilled to realize he spoke about me. Slightly nauseous, I flipped deeper into the notebook and gagged in my shirt, not because the smell got worse, but because of what I saw. Scribbles and scribbles of something that had dried brown. Blood. He'd written in blood. 3 words, over and over, sometimes only 1 word per page. Kill that bitch. I dropped the vile notebook. Definitely garbage. My kids didn't need to see their father's descent into madness. Perhaps he'd gotten some kind of brain parasite that chewed up his common sense. Opening the cupboard under the sink, I prepared to dump it all, only to worry Winnie might see it and pull it out. Speaking of whom, she hustled through the door in a blast of cold air. Guilt made me shove the box to the side, out of sight behind the counter. "Morning, Winnie." Not her real name. That was actually Wendy. But I'd given her that nickname at a young age because she was my cuddly bear. "Late night?" She'd left not long after Daryl's visit. "I spent the night with a friend." She practically glowed. "Oh? Do I know them?" "Yes, you do, and I don't need you getting judgy about it, which is why I'm not telling you who yet. I don't want to jinx it." Would I get judgmental? Depended. Her last semi-boyfriend was much older than her and asked if I wanted to do a threesome with my daughter. The one before that was married and her college professor. She didn't have a great track record. But I'd learned what would happen if I told her I thought she was fucking up, so I stuck with, "I am so happy for you." "Thanks, Mom." My girl grinned so wide she almost lost half her head. "I gotta go get ready for work. I start at 10 and work until close. Don't wait up, though. I'm spending the night at my friend's house." What should a mother say when confronted with her adult daughter being open about her sex life? Old me might have spouted off something about giving away the cow, not respecting herself, or something judgmental and holier-than-thou. Why did I do that? Why would I try to shame my daughter about being in charge of her body and sexuality? I found the right reply. "Have fun and stay safe." The big wide smile wrapped me in warmth. "I plan to have fun a few times." She winked. I gasped. "Wendy Agatha Dunrobin." She laughed, and a second later I joined her. I shook my head. "You're incorrigible." "I know, one of my finer..."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?